Welcome to the Expert Connect Wellness Chats. In this episode, we will be talking about women's health. And we are here with Victoria Smith, who's the founder of Stressless Ladies. Victoria, you're joining us from beautiful British Columbia. How are you today?
I'm good. I very much recognize that I am Victoria in Victoria, so that has not been lost on me. But yeah, it's quite sunny today, shockingly.
There you go. There you go. It's beautiful. I'm super excited. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of ours. And I'm super excited to be talking to you and getting some great insights from you on women's health. We have a lot of data and some good stories that are coming out that talk about women and how we are going through so much more stress than our male counterparts. And I just wanted to talk to you as an expert. Why do you think, at the core of this, why do you think women are so much more likely to be stressed out than our male counterparts?
So I think there is a bit of a challenge with the data because I think to a degree, men don't recognize stress in the same way and they don't self-report it in the same way. So I do think men's numbers are higher, but on this at the same time, I do think women carry much more of that emotional labor, right? We tend to be, especially if you have kids, you tend to be the organizer, the carer. You know what school activity is happening on what day, or you're organizing the signing of the forms, or what activities or people are doing. Like we tend to, for the most part, like mass generalization, be the holders of the calendars and the what's going on. And so as a result, that like adds so much to our mental and physical plates. And it just it is draining, right? Like we love to do this. We love to be providers and carers for our family, but it does take an emotional toll and it does definitely add to our stress. So in general, that is why women are more stressed than men, because of the emotional labor that we carry.
Interesting. You're right. And as you talk about it, you're right. Men don't generally come out and report these things. So the numbers, the data might be skewed a little bit over there. What are some practices do you think we can incorporate into our day that will help us relieve some stress?
So I generally think that, especially as we go through this pandemic, a lot of what we need to be doing is just constant regulation, right? It's not that we are not going to be without stress right now. Like many of us are going through financial challenges, work is perhaps busier than ever, or we're looking for work. Kids are home, families are home, everybody's in the same space, and we're all going a little like, oh. And so stress is just inevitable. So what we can do throughout our day is these constant little points of how do we regulate back from high stress to sort of medium or to low, or that kind of thing, where it's trying to get back to a sort of neutral stage. And generally, what regulation can look like is pretty similar for all of us, like fresh air, sunshine, moving your body, taking some deep breaths. I know you're a fan of meditation, right? And in as little as 2 minutes, if you're doing some deep breathing, particularly deep belly breathing, what you're doing is redirecting that oxygen up to your prefrontal cortex. When you do that, you can think more critically and problem solve, which you can't when you're in this state of stress where you're breathing really shallow. And I think from a regulating your emotions and your stress, like deep breathing is fantastic. But to also be able to do the critical thinking, like a lot of us have big challenges that we're trying to work through right now, right? And we need to be able to think through what's the best next step? What information do I have? How am I going to do this? And we can't do that from like a fight or flight response. But yes, in general, sunshine, exercise, moving your body, having connection with people as well. Like we really need people. And it might feel like we're constantly on Zoom or Google Meets and like all day at work, and like the last thing you want to maybe do in the evening is have like a FaceTime call with a family member. But can you do some sort of distanced get together? Can you do I know it's colder in many different places of the world, but like, can you wrap up really warm and go for a walk with a friend from a safe distance? Like, what are the ways that we can still get that connection in? Perhaps with some people who are not living in our home, because we're probably a little bit sick of them. Like, can we get some different people in our lives so we have that connection? So really, it's what can you do in micro moments? Can you take a walk around your block? Can you sit on your porch and just get some sunshine on your face? Can you take 5 minutes to make a meal that is going to fuel you rather than like grabbing the Halloween candy or whatever it is? So it's just about tiny little moments to keep getting back on track to that point of regulation. We don't have the time or ability, most of us, to take like a spa day or a vacation right now. How many of us really want a vacation? Right? So what can we do? How do we create these like 5-minute micro moments of vacation frequently throughout the day?
And I also think that I love all those ideas. And I think also, in addition to that, we shouldn't lose our morning and evening routine and the value it provides. So I'd like to hear, what are your thoughts on how can, when we stay in our regular cycle and our regular routine of morning or evening, whichever routine you have,
Mhm.
how does that help us become more relaxed or keep on with a better health, I would say?
It helps us in so many ways because no matter if you say you're like a super spontaneous person, like as a species, we like to know what's going to happen. We like predictability. We like to be able to expect what's coming next. And with this pandemic as part of our lives in general, US election coming, all those things, like we can't predict what's going to happen. And that is just inherently under the surface very, very stressful for us. So whether you have a morning or an evening routine or both, to have that predictability of how you're going to wind down or how you're going to gear up for the day is so, so helpful for your physical health and your mental health. Now, I always like to say, like, it so depends on where you're at in your life right now, right? Like, what your life stage is. I've got young kids, and so, like, a morning routine is a bit of a challenge because every day they wake up at a different time, and sometimes I don't want to wake up at 5:30 to wake up before them. Sometimes they are sleeping to the same time, and so I just have to figure out, like, what is my life this week, next week, based on their growth spurts and all of that. So try not to like I always say to people, try not to like berate yourself for if things aren't going great this week. Just keep trying to show up, right? Like last night, we put our kids down at 7:45, and the last we heard from them was 8:45. So while I would love to have had an hour to myself last night, that didn't happen because there were constant tears and mommy, I need this and mommy, I need that. So my evening routine was a little shot, but we'll try again tonight, right? So just keep showing up and keep trying because your body and your mind will thank you for that consistency where you can get it.
And I really appreciate how you said that if it doesn't happen today, then let's not think this is the end of the world. Let's get off the bandwagon and we're never going to try it again. I think coming back to it, what I hear you say is consistency is key, and I
Mhm.
think that is where the magic happens. And I think it's such an important message for all of us to hear, especially as we're going through these uncertain times. A lot of people have been laid off. Some
Mhm.
women have been laid off who have been mainly, either you are the main home provider or whatever it is. I think it really dampens our spirits, and we don't know what to do next. But I think the idea of holding on to a routine, the idea of incorporating the small moments that you talked about, whether it is going for a walk, getting sunlight, breathing, whatever it is, it's so important for us to hold on to that and ensure we stay consistent, because our health and our mental health is so much more important, which I think is a great segue into our next question, that how does mental health how does our mental health and impact our greater families? Because I think that mental health doesn't work in silos. It's not that it's anxious mental health and it's only going to impact me as a person. I think my mental health impacts so many people around me. So I'd love to hear your
Yeah.
thoughts on this, Victoria.
Well, I mean, I'm sure we've all heard this before about animals, right? Like they can sense fear or they can sense stress and anxiety. So can the ones we love, right? If I'm feeling
Mhm.
really stressed and anxious, my partner can tell, my kids can tell. And then if I'm feeling really mentally unwell, how I show up for my family is going to be different, right? I might be a little snappier with my kids. I might say something I regret. I might just not be present and be engaged. So you're right, it 100% doesn't happen in silos. So I think that's where so many women I talk to feel this guilt to take time for themselves, to take time for that routine, just some me time, whatever that is. And this is where I say, but it helps everyone else.
Mhm.
Right. In the same way that, when your partner needs some space, your kids need some space, or people just need to get out of the house and get some fresh air, the same is true for us, right? We need to be mentally well in order to support other people, but also because our moods are contagious, right?
Mhm.
If you go, if you're back at the workforce, or if you have a coworker who's, just someone toxic to be around, that rubs off, right? And it's
Mhm.
the exact same thing in our households. And it's even more amplified when we're home 24/7.
Mhm.
So absolutely, we need to prioritize, like, we've always needed to prioritize mental health and stress and well-being, but even more so during a pandemic, right? I really hope this is kind of like the wake up call for so many of us, that it doesn't stop once COVID stops, right? That we are constantly looking at how do we put our well being first, because we don't know what's around the corner, right? So, yeah, make sure you're taking care of yourself. It's a gift to you and to others.
And I think on that note, it's also important for us to be grateful, and I think be compassionate. And I just wanted to ask you, as an expert, what's your take on gratitude and compassion, and why is it so much more important right now?
I think it's important always, but definitely when it
Mhm.
seems like everything's going wrong, right? Everything's
Mhm.
not going our way, everything's out of control. When you can find things to hold close and be grateful for, it changes the way your brain is wired. So it actually is rooted in science. A lot of people think like, oh, gratitude practice, it's just like fluffy. And it's the complete opposite. When you tell your brain what to look for, it will find evidence that that is true. So, for example, if you wake up tomorrow and you're like, today is a terrible day, you have told your brain, this is what I believe. I believe today is terrible. And so all of a sudden, your brain's going to look for the evidence that that is true. Oh, that person cut you off. Yep, it's a terrible day. That email came in. Yep, it's a terrible day. Like, your brain just wants to reinforce what you believe. So if you start your day with a gratitude practice and look for 5 things, or you end it with a gratitude practice, or whatever point of the day you put this in, your brain is then going, oh no, this did happen. This was something I can appreciate. This might have been tiny, but what a magical moment, right? And so it is more important than ever. And like you and I were talking before we got on this call, I just moved to a new province. I have a new-ish job. We have lots of change in our household and our family, and it's very easy to feel overwhelmed and stressed, and I do. And then but then you take the moment for the gratitude, and it's like, my son and I went for a walk on the beach the other night, and it was like, how special that I got to do that, and finding a piece of sea glass, and yes, getting my Starbucks before I went to work the other day, right? Like, these little moments that just make it, you feel like it's going to be okay. I got something done today. I had a good chat with someone. Like, it really reinforces that feeling of safety, and that it will be okay, even if you don't know how you're going to get there. So yeah, if you don't do a gratitude practice, just try and see the difference that it makes in your well-being.
100%. And I think, in addition to that, in addition to the gratitude piece, I think compassion also becomes so important, because I think, as women, I feel like we carry so much of the workload, or whatever it
Mm.
may be. So we don't cut ourselves a lot of slack. We don't appreciate our own selves very much. I think we are always, our compassion always goes out to others. And I think we really need to reflect it inwards to be able to be compassionate towards our own selves,
Yeah.
especially right now. And I think it's very important for all of us, men, women, children, all of us, to be able to practice that. And I also wanted to ask you, so where can people find you on social media, Victoria, and what programs do you have at Stressless Ladies?
So I mostly hang out on Instagram. So I'm at Stressless Ladies there. And our programs are actually changing a little bit. So this is kind of a scoop. You're the first person to hear this, but we're going to be consolidating a little bit, because we've offered a lot of different sort of very niche programs, and we're really going to be bringing it back to basics. So the program is Stress Less in 90 days. How you choose to do that is going to be different. We have a self-led version of it. Our group coaching is going to be launching January 1st. So if you want to make 2021 the year that, like, you get a hold of your stress and how you can manage it, I would so love to see you there joining us on January 1st. And then you can also do that as a one-to-one program. So that's really, we're going to be bringing it all back to stress less in 90 days. And this is, you're not going to become a Zen monk on a mountaintop by the end of like 3 months. That's not how life works. But the women who have gone through this program, like they just see the huge difference in the skills that they've got for life now to manage their stress. And they understand that stress will still happen, but how they can respond is so different than before. So because it hasn't quite been publicized yet, if you want information on that, connect with me on Instagram at Stressless Ladies. Send me a message, because there's only going to be so many spots available. I think we're like aiming for a group of 12. So if you want to grab one of those 12 spots, please let me know. But you can find everything at stresslessladies.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Victoria, for your time. Greatly appreciate it. And I'm super excited, and I look forward to your 90-day program. I'm sure that you have great tools and tactics in your toolbox that you're going to teach the people that are coming looking for your help. But thank you once again. And I appreciate you joining us. Stay well, and we'll catch you in another episode.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome.